And hello, movie lovers. So, I just want to say this. We're going to be doing our top 10 or our favorite Johnny Depp movies. And Charlie's going to be here with me. And this is going to be a fun little back and forth between the two of us. We're going to shoot. And then, we're just going to go on ahead and have fun. Let's do this. Hey, what's going on, Charlie?
Going on, John? Not much.
Nothing much. So tonight we're actually going to be talking about some of our favorite Johnny Depp movies. Some of them are actually going to be probably different from each other, and I'm just going to say this: some of the ones that Charlie probably picked for his worst ones are probably going to be my best ones. The ones that I chose for my best ones are going to probably be total crap, depending on how his list goes. This is going to be a fun little episode that I've been wanting to do with the best and worst of certain actors and stuff like that. So, with further ado, let's go on ahead and let's get into it. So, I'll let you go first for your
All
best
right, I'm gonna
list.
start. I'll start doing like let's start with the happy ones, like the good ones. So Johnny Depp, and then I'll get into my That's so I think not like I guess I haven't seen many Johnny Depp good movies. I think I have like 8 on my list that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
I think number 8 I have uh I'm gonna have a lot of pirates on my list. It's fine because that's most of the Johnny Depp movies I've seen. I had number 8 was Dead Men Tell No Tales. That was the latest one. Um, this was entertaining. I liked this so much better than On Stranger Tides. This one was really cool because it kind of like it bridged the gap a little bit because you got the original cast back in this one, and then you had the younger, like you had Will Turner's son in this, and how he and then you had Barbossa's daughter, and it this was just an entertaining movie. You got the cast back, and you got Orlando Bloom back as Turner as Will Turner, and then you got and then Elizabeth Swan's back, and I love the ending of this one because it's set up at the time was going to set up the next few movies with Davy Jones returning, and then because that was the little tease at the end, it was a it was a mid credit sequence. They were going to tease the continuation of this, and then never happened. But no, this was just a fun, entertaining movie. Like the safe sequence. I know you and I were talking about this earlier. The opening safe sequence with Johnny Depp in the safe and them stealing the safe. I mean that stuff was entertaining. And again, it wasn't as cheesy and annoying as On Stranger Tides, which I'll get into in a bit.
You
So that was my
see,
number 8.
okay. So here's the thing. None of the Pirates movies made my list. And it's not because I didn't enjoy the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I just enjoyed the first two films. The last one that you mentioned, the one that you just mentioned, I actually enjoyed. It's just that there's some other movies in the Johnny Depp filmography that I enjoyed more than the pirate movies because I grew up in the 90s era of Johnny Depp. And also, too, I can't put down Nightmare on Elm Street because Johnny Depp dies. So, therefore, I think that I can't put that down on there.
You still
But what I
could. You still could. I mean, I remember like I watched that movie in like in as my horror class because those Nightmare on Elm Street movies were something I was not looking forward to watching, and then the way he dies, I was like, okay. And then it was a very young Johnny Depp. That was like one of those first few things that he's done. But I was like, okay. Again, they're horror movies. I don't do horror stuff, so I don't expect a lot of horror movies on my list. So
Okay. So here's the thing. I just want to go on ahead and piggyback off of you for 1 minute about the Pirates movie, real quick. The thing that I liked about it is like basically you have this is like the Fast and the Furious within the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, if you think about it, because of the fact that you have the original cast members back. You have that going, and also too, it even has like a background on Barbosa. You have Javier Bardem in this movie. You have also exposition of how funny Johnny Depp actually is as Captain Jack Sparrow. It didn't really feel like that he was being too much of a cartoon character versus the other ones. This actually, to me, was actually a lot of fun in the movie theaters, watching him inside the safe, him drinking the rum and all that stuff. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I can definitely see why you would put this on your list.
well, I mean, it's like for anybody that hasn't seen this, don't expect the main characters you'll see mostly throughout this are Barbosa, Captain Barbosa, and Depp. You briefly see Orlando Bloom. You don't get Elizabeth Swann. You don't give Keira Knightley to the very end. So it's not like, I mean, I kind of agree it's a little bit of Fast and the Furious, but it's not outrageous because where they want to cast
Why? Because they're
everybody in
not
the Fast and
family.
the Furious. But it's a little bit, but it's, I mean, the way it tied together at the end was a really nice like that, and then and again the musical score though, I think with Hans Zimmer, I think he's doing it. He could do some really like great stuff, and then the end
Hmm.
sequence, the ending score that they played when Will finally reunites with Elizabeth after all these years because he was stuck at sea because of the deal he had to make in order to he sacrificed himself in order to stop Davy Jones. He was stuck at sea for the rest of his life. So until Will's son fixed everything, we didn't see much of Orlando Bloom. But I mean, I think the one Johnny Depp line was hilarious. Was when Barbosa's daughter, she's like taking off, she takes off her dress and she's jumping into the water. And he goes, "Oh, that!" And then Johnny says, "Well, yeah, you would have seen a little bit more if you just shut your yab." I thought that was like that's totally Captain Jack right there. You would have seen more if you just been quiet.
You see, I like that. I really felt like at that time that Johnny actually embraced his character a lot more with
Yeah,
Jack Sparrow. Not saying that he didn't before, but okay. So I'm gonna go a little bit on the detective side and go a little bit on the mystery element of it. You can actually put this as a horror film, but also too, you don't really have to put that on there. It's basically a thriller mixed in with a crime film, and that movie is called From Hell. And the reason why I like From Hell was because of the fact I was always obsessed with Jack the Ripper and always going into like true crime kind of stuff. I did not turn into this whole entire conspiracy theorist or anything like that with with the arrows pointing different directions and the pictures and stuff like that and having everything pinpointed. But I definitely liked his take on a detective trying to find out who's doing all these murders and trying to find the Jack the Ripper murderer. That was basically what I liked about it. Was that mystery element within this world? It was something different. He was also coming off, I believe, off of Pirates of the Caribbean at that time as well, I think. So it was like early 2000s Johnny Depp that I really liked with that. And it had that good detective vibe, kind of has like a seven kind of vibe to it in a sense within this world with Jack the Ripper. But yeah, that's what I have for my number 10.
I've seen that years ago. I really don't remember it. Like again, I try to remember stuff that remember vividly. Like I might have seen, I've seen that. I don't know if I have. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm familiar with the name of it. I think Heather Graham was in that one as well. But I think that's mainly all I can remember out of that one. Okay, you're gonna hate me. I have another pirate movie at number
Okay.
seven. I have the
So what
third
do we
one
have for
at
your
World's End. I like this one. This was a nice ending of that little trilogy of the first three films. This was before they decided to do the fourth one. This was a nice that. I mean, it had a great battle sequence while they're going down the giant hole in the water, and they're like the two different underworld sides, so they're having battles while that. I mean that one just had a lot of great action in it. They had Cheyenne Fat was in it as one of the characters. It was just nice continuation that you have to watch after the way the Dead Man's Chest ended was cliffhanger. So you had to watch World's End, and then again it was just entertaining. It was Johnny Depp being Johnny Depp. It was more entertaining. Again, it was just is with the I have like out of the pirate movies four. I think there's like four movies. I like three out of the four. So I'm getting the three out of the four all are done right. At least two of them done right now. I mean, I liked it. What it was entertaining. It didn't piss me off.
for me, I just like the first two. That's the one that's my first go tos
Mm,
because of the fact that with the Curse of the Black Pearl was actually one of my favorites because you have a horror element within this universe.
mhm.
And then you also have the first introduction into Johnny Depp, and everybody's wondering, okay, what is he going to look like as a pirate? What's he going to be like? You have that kind of element going on with it. So that's why I like the very first Pirates of the Caribbean, and then I like the continuation of that going off on the second one. But None of the Pirates movies made my cut for this though, because I wanted to be a little bit different. And of course, I grew up in the '90s era, so therefore
Yeah.
that's why I did that.
Well, I haven't seen
So
many of his
another movie
movies.
I
That's why I
like.
had to put Pirates in mine. I was
Yeah,
started out at 8, so you had like two movies ahead of me anyway. I was like, I haven't seen many of his movies. I'll say that.
you see, I think this is going to be a perfect way for me to introduce you to the new some Johnny Depp movies. For maybe you might want to check out, and I think our audience might want to check out some Johnny Depp movies if they are like you and they haven't seen that many Johnny
Mhm.
Depp movies. So I think that would be a perfect way actually capturing some filmographies of his. But number 9 for me is Secret Window. And I love Secret Window because of the plot twist at the very end of it. It's also based off of a Stephen King novella. And then also too, you have John Turturro that's actually doing a fantastic job of scaring the pants off of Johnny Depp the whole entire time. And you really are believing that this guy is really obsessed with Johnny Depp to the point where he's killing Johnny Depp's dog. He's trying to cause more problems with Johnny Depp within that little small town community and things like that. And also, too, Johnny Depp's also a writer, which is also probably a callback to Stephen King and stuff like that too. So, I definitely like that whole entire delivery of how Johnny Depp's character changes once that plot twist happens. So that's something I really liked about that film. And then even when you do a rewatch of it, you can pick up on little small things to where like, oh, okay, I can see where that plot twist came from and how it connects. And it's so cohesive. It's really a great entertainment movie. I really love Secret Window. As a matter of fact, Josh and I did a review for that back in 2020. So if you guys want to check out the audio only podcast for that, you guys can. And that's not going to be on video or anything like that. That was only at the time when I was doing like an audio only podcast. But yep.
All right, my number 6, another Pirates movie. Psych. It's not. Public Enemies. Back this was back in 2009. I remember watching this. I started working at the. This was my first summer working at my local theater, and we got this. And my dad, my brother, and I went to go see this. It was entertaining. I liked it. I like Michael Mann. I just love his style. Um, and I just love the style because and I love his gunplay. How he tries to make the gunfires sound authentic. I mean, that's what I really loved about his version of Miami Vice was how authentic the gunshots sounded. Like again, it makes you feel like holy crap, and like that. I mean, and that movie was intense. Like just how I mean, the opening sequence, guys getting their arms shot off of armor piercing bullets, like snipers, like, and that was just like that. And then even though this wasn't directed by Michael Mann, but Den of Thieves, the latest the Gerard Butler flick about like bank robber movie, and the gun sounds, the sound of the guns being shot sounded exactly like they did in Heat. And that has made me enjoy the movie more because it's realistic, it sounds authentic. And I think Public Enemies just had good performances by Christian Bale and Johnny Depp, and Johnny Depp playing a famous mobster and one of those John Dillinger, I believe it was. I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
John Dillinger.
It's been a long time. I haven't seen this movie since 2009, and yet I remember seeing this, and
But
I
no,
I enjoyed it for what it was. It was
it's
entertaining, and that's why it's my number 6.
yeah, it's based off of John Dillinger. And
Mhm.
here's the thing: I like John. I always wanted to see a biopic based off of John Dillinger, but for me, that movie just didn't land, which is why that's actually on my bad list
Oh, okay.
because of the fact, and I'll explain why it's on my bad list. And that's because of the fact that they try to mix a romantic element into a gangster film that was forced. And I understand that that was a big element because of the fact that at that time that the FBI was trying to bring down Dillinger and was trying to use the wife as a way of actually trying to bring down John Dillinger. But they made that more of the aspect of it versus it being about the crime, about being wanted. I just didn't have that same. I was excited about Public Enemy whenever I first heard about it. Then when I saw the movie, that's when for me it just went downhill for me. I just didn't like the romance part of it. I just felt like that took me out of the film as far as that goes. And they were making it mostly forced on the romance part versus everything that Dillinger went through. And it was like, okay, I just don't care about this anymore as I wanted it. So that's why that was actually on my bad list, on the worst list for me. So that's why I have that on there. But I do appreciate the fact that Charlie does and that you do like that movie though.
Well,
And I
again,
do like Michael Mann.
yeah, I've only seen that movie once. That was 2009. So that was like 13, about 13 years ago. So yeah, it's a little over 13 years ago. So I just remember those two were in it, and I remember like there was some really good shootouts in it. But that's all I remember from that. I just remember seeing it, and I was like, I needed some more stuff to put on my like list. So yeah.
I gotcha. So okay, I'm gonna backspace this off my that one on my list since I already talked about it. So okay, let me go and clear that out. So the next one I have is Sweeney Todd. And the reason why I like Sweeney Todd is okay, I'm not a guy that loves musicals. Charlie knows that. I do not like musicals. The reason why I like Sweeney Todd is because it's so different from the average musical. It's dark, it's haunting, it's traumatizing because of the fact that you have a guy who was separated from his wife and his kid, and basically it's a revenge story where he opens up a barber shop above this little meat pie shop, and he's getting even with everybody that winded up taking his wife away from him and his kid again away from him. And Tim Burton's style when it came down to the whole entire of East Street and stuff like that, and think within the Sweeney Todd universe, I thought it was really good. Of course, you also have Snape in this movie. That's who I'm talking about, Charlie.
Oh, yeah, Alan Rickman, yeah.
Yeah, you have Alan Rickman in this, and also too, you have the little short guy that played the rat in Harry Potter as well. He's in this movie. It's to be honest with you, it's a great casting. You also have Tim Burton's wife in this movie, and I just like the fact that you actually have this haunting story, and they're singing this musical element to it. The thing that makes me laugh whenever I watch this film is when he has his blades out. He's kneeling down, and basically he hasn't opened up his shop yet or anything like that. But he's kneeling down, and he takes out his blades. He goes, "My friends," and it feels like he looks like a rock star about to kill somebody. It was just to me. I thought it was very humorous when it came down to that. So Sweeney Todd is definitely one of my favorite films to watch, and I just had a good time watching it and watching something that was so different from the standout of the happy-go-lucky Broadway plays and stuff like that into something a little bit more darker and a little bit more.
So, I think you muted yourself, John. Okay, so I'll continue on. So, I have not seen that movie. I know of it. I don't do musicals. I am not going to do this musical because seeing that just remind me of a horrible musical I watched called Repo the Genetic Opera. And yes, I thought that movie was so terrible. My dad was like gave me props for sitting through the rest of that crap of a fest, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm done with musicals. No, I had to watch a bunch of musicals in my film class, and one of the worst ones I had to watch was Dancer in the Dark. And I'm not going to get into that because that one was just too much. That was 2.5 hours of my life I'll never get back, and that's the time I want to get back. That was a musical that was on LSD laced with acid. That's what that movie was. Yeah, I can hear you now, John. Okay, so the next one on my list for my favorites is not really a Johnny Depp starring movie. He makes a great cameo in it. 21 Jump Street. That I had that one as my number 5. He's in it for a good chunk of the movie, but he doesn't make the big reveal until like towards the end of the movie, which was like the big shocking reveal was Johnny Depp was a member of was in this movie, and I thought that his that was hysterical. And again, I just thought that was just absolutely funny seeing him show up in a TV show that made him famous. But yeah, that's I had 21 Jump Street, my number 5. It's not a Johnny Depp movie; it's just he was in it. Okay, and then after, oh, sorry, I thought I heard you, John. Oh, okay. So anyway, that was my number 5. My number 4, I have Once Upon a Time in Mexico. This was the third movie in the Mariachi series. He was in this, and Johnny Depp was just great in this movie. Like the banner that he does, and how he thinks he's so full of himself. He's one of those corrupt FBI guys, and then he has a couple highlights where he gets the worst end of the stick. He doesn't die, but he loses something of value to him, and he's having to take out this like about at least 4 to 5 guys.
Yeah,
blinded, like he lost his eyes, and that scene was really brutal to watch. I cannot believe Robert Rodriguez got away with that. I mean, again, if you love this Desperado, this is the continuation. This is not a Johnny Depp vehicle. This is more the Antonio Banderas is El Mariachi continuation, but it's just Johnny Depp's in it, and he's absolutely hysterical. Like he's like, you know what I'm gonna do after how I know food's really good. I want to go in. I'm gonna pay my bill. I'm gonna go into the kitchen, and I'm gonna shoot the chef. And you see him shoot the chef. So I'm like, yep. You see him. So he just shoots it, and then the prosthetic arm, and then he picks up like, and then like, yeah, it's Johnny Depp is this it was when he was just like he's just flamboyant, trying to be full of himself, and he gets played. He gets played pretty hard.
You see, I like Desperate. Here's the thing: I like that movie. It's just that for that, it had to be a Johnny Depp movie for me, not like a featuring thing. But the movie itself is good. I'm going to say that. I love the action sequences in it. Also, too, Johnny Depp. The most haunting thing was the part where where the guys winds up torturing him, and he's blind. That was really that had like a little horror element to it if you think about it. But
did, yeah.
then, but I also here's another thing though that I like, Charlie, is the scene that you're talking about where he's like, "Oh, I gotta shoot the chef because I have to go ahead and keep order around here because nobody around here can have the best pork in Mexico." So basically, if you think about it, he's playing like both sides, where he's basically being the puppeteer, but at the same time, he's also being played as well. He's like supposed to be the smartest man in the room, but he's also like the dumbest person in the room, if you think about it.
And he loses his eyes, and then like when he like in that, and then he's like, "Do you like what you see?" No, and he just shoots the Ava Mendes character. Do you like what you see? No, he just shoots her, like, and he's it's like, okay, and that's where the fake arm comes to play. And then that's with Johnny Depp with long hair, like and then this him with the random outfits, and how he thinks he's smarter than Antonio Banderas, but he's not, because Antonio Banderas is just he's just great in it. And then of course you have I think one of the guys that plays his buddies, he's a famous singer. I think it's Enrique Iglesias. I think
Yeah,
he
it's
was.
Enrique Iglesias.
Yes, he was one of the ones that he's just seeing him with guns and the shooting people. I'm like, wow, that's not Enrique Iglesias.
Because at that time he had that mole. Remember that ugly mole that he had?
I don't remember.
Yeah, how can you not remember that mole that he had to get surgically removed? But anyways, Enrique Iglesias was in that movie. I really enjoyed Once Upon a Time in Mexico. At Derby, we're gonna be giving out our top 10 and list of best and worst at the end of this. So stay tuned for that when we start wrapping everything up. But you know, the other thing I liked, and I know that you don't do horror movies, but it's another Tim Burton movie, and it's Sleepy Hollow.
Well, I watched that years ago. I don't remember much of it.
Oh man, I love this movie though, because of the fact that it's coming off that animated cartoon that we all grew up on. And then they're trying to tell a story that's completely different than what we are accustomed to, because originally Ichabod Crane was supposed to be the school teacher, and instead they put him in as a detective and putting him in the woods. He's afraid of everything. He's afraid of the dark. He also makes himself look like he's the smartest man in the room, just like the other person. But he's actually the dumbest person in the room as well. So that's another thing that I thought that was actually pretty funny was, you have a guy who's afraid of blood. You also have this guy who is been tormented as well with PTSD from his past childhood, which they gave him his own origin story. You also have Christina Ricci, which is my crush from Back with the Addams Family. Then you have this great cast. Especially my other favorite part was the church scene with the headless horseman, where basically he's not allowed to even go in the church. So what he does is he gets a piece of the fence, puts the ties a rope up, throws the wooden part of the fence and strikes the guy right in the heart, and then pulls him out of the church through the window and then cuts off his head. And to me, to be honest with you, that for that to be a PG-13 movie, it lands. Or I think it
It
was a
was
rated R
R.
movie. Yeah,
I
it's
think it
rated
was
R.
R.
It has to be rated R because of the blood that we had in it. But man, it was such a good movie for that time. And I remember moving back from Boston over to Mississippi and watching this with my brother-in-law, and I was just so enticed. And also, too, you have Tim Burton who's doing these dark kind of gothic kind of sceneries, and also too, it's very grim. And this is before he started doing the LSD stuff with Alice in Wonderland. But I really like how he does his original organic stuff versus doing oversaturation with CGI. And Tim Burton does a fantastic job at this. Johnny Depp does a fantastic job of playing Ichabod. I thought this was a perfect movie all around because a matter of fact, I actually reviewed this a couple of years ago too on the audio only podcast with Rossie and my other friend Rick. But hands down, you can't go wrong. If you're looking for something spooky during horror movie season, which is in October, I definitely recommend Sleepy Hollow. And Derpy says, John, that's one of my favorites of his. And and that's in my top 10 or 5, he says. Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I can actually see why that would actually be in your top 10. But so far and everything, that's what I have on my list as far as the best of Johnny Depp so far.
Okay, so I got 3 more to get through, and then I'll be on my worst. 3 and 2, we discussed these. My number 3 was Curse of the Black Pearl. This is the first introduction into the pirate stuff. This was great. Because I don't like those swashbuckling like sword fight movies or whatever. This was entertaining. I loved it. It was like this is the day you almost capped Captain Jack Sparrow, but you have heard of me. Like just the randomness, just the funniness, and then it's just the chemistry between him and Wilt and Orlando Bloom was perfect. And then Keira Knightley is great as Elizabeth Swann. And then again, this had that dark elements to it, but yet it was entertaining. This is the first big thing that was because the Pirates ride is not this. The Pirates
No,
ride
it's
is
totally
not this.
different.
Totally different. But yet they made it work. And they made it work and it worked well. And then my number 2 was Dead Man's Chest. That one was like like the Dead Man's Chest. That opening was like so dark. You took into that one and again it was just great, and it had like first time I ever saw a big cliffhanger in a movie was the end of Dead Man's Chest. Oh, don't worry, Derby. I'll get to the Lone Ranger. That was an absolute travesty. I'll get to that. That's on my
Yeah,
list.
I actually have that on my worst list as
And
well.
when I'll get to that, get that in a sec. And then my number 1, I had Black Mass. Black Mass. Johnny Depp. Oh man, this back 2015 when I saw the previews for this. Johnny Depp was so good in this movie, and is what a Whitey Bulger like his face. Fully transformed into this role, and he was just like it's just like he was trying to he had this dry sense of humor of the number one rule is don't get caught, and he's telling his son this, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give you one shot. You better make the best of your shot, and that I'm gonna come and eat you. Like he was so terrifying as Whitey Bulger in Black Mass, and it was just an entertaining movie. He's just a mobster, but yet Johnny Depp was just so good, and that's why it had to be my number one. That's the big one I remember, just how good it was.
Okay, so that's actually on my worst list, and I'll
Oh,
explain
okay.
why that. Well, here's the thing: it's no discredit to Johnny Depp. I thought he did a fantastic job as playing Whitey Bulger. He transformed himself into that role and everything. But for me, and he also got the Boston accent perfect as well, because it's actually hard to do a Boston accent. But for me, it was actually the fact that I felt like it just went on for way too long. For me personally, I just and also too, I was hoping that we would actually get more stuff that he did as a gangster versus seeing all this stuff within the FBI and things like that. I wanted to see more of the gangster stuff, and that felt like it kind of got pushed to the side. And it's like, oh, Whitey Bulger's doing this. Well, it'd be great if I could actually see what he's doing instead of you guys talking about what he's doing. And that was the gripe that I had with Black Mass. Other than that, though, the performance was perfect for Johnny Depp. I'm not going to lie about that. I really enjoyed his performance, but it was the overall direction of the film that made it fall flat for me when it came down to that, which is also the same reason why I didn't like Public Enemies either. But, I can understand why you would put that as your best list because of the fact that his performance was good. It just fell flat for me as well, um, because of not because of his performance, because of the overall direction.
Hmm.
But
But
let's
that's
see
all
here.
my favorites. I only had 8 favorites. The rest, and I have like 9 least favorites. So,
Okay, so I'm just gonna keep on going
all right, go ahead.
with my best. So I actually have another movie that came out in the '90s, and it's called Out of Time. Out of Time is basically where Johnny Depp's at this airport, him and his daughter. His daughter winds up getting taken from basically what I'm remembering is his daughter gets taken, and then all of a sudden he winds up having to do this dirty job for somebody, and he's an innocent bystander. He's just minding his own business. He's at this airport with his daughter. His daughter gets taken. Next thing you know, he has to try and kill the governor at this party. Otherwise, the person kills the daughter. So basically, it's one of those movies where you don't know what's going to happen. It's full of suspense. It's Johnny Depp in his prime. He's clean cut. He's got short hair, and it was an overall great movie. I was full of suspense. A great thriller ride from what I remembered watching it years ago. I really enjoyed Out of Time. So there's that one.
Oh, that's on my least favorite. Nick of Time. I
Yeah,
was
Nick of Time.
bored. I was bored. Yeah, I liked Christopher Walken as the villain, and then forcing him to do a political assassination in a mall, and you have to do this. I don't know. It just didn't work. It's not like I was like, "Is this over?" I just watched it a couple months ago, and I was like, Is this over?" This is kind of boring. It definitely did. It has not like aged well. I'll just say that it has not aged well. But like I don't know, I just remember I didn't like it. That's why it was on my list. That
Okay.
was my number 7 least favorite.
All right, I can understand that. Plus, I haven't seen that movie in a little bit, so it might not have aged well. So that's one thing I want to actually check out later on and see how do like a rewatch of that for myself. So number 5, I got Edward Scissorhands, and the reason why I like this movie is because of the fact I remember this is also another Tim Burton movie, but I remember seeing the previews as a kid. I was like 9 years old, maybe 7 if that, and I remember seeing the previews and then watching not Kim Basinger, but what's I'm
Is it Winona
Winona,
Ryder?
yeah, Winona Ryder. Whenever she turns Edward around and he's wearing that gothic outfit and stuff like that, and it was this whole entire gothic kind of scenery. really dungy kind of look to it, kind of like a Sleepy Hollow kind of vibe to it. And then he's in this suburban area and things like that, trying to fit in with this crowd that is basically makes me want to hate humans because of the way that they were treating Edward for being different and judging him for being different. It even though some people are like, oh, it's a little wonky or whatever, but still overall there's a message behind that, which is why I like it. It's because it's not supposed to judge people from the outside appearance. It's supposed to be judging them what's on the inside, not on the outside. But you also have the iconic scene where Edward's over there cutting the bushes with the dinosaur. You also have this one part that takes place in the beauty salon where basically the neighbor is trying to sleep with him and she's not making him undress her. And then all of a sudden she puts on a Tom Jones record. And next thing you know, it they start making out on this little I want to say like a massage chair or something,
Or an
but
ottoman.
ottoman, yeah. And she goes on ahead, tries to put the moves on him, and all of a sudden it falls backwards. Then Edward is just scared out of his mind. He hurries up, gets out of the beauty shop, and goes over there and sits with Kevin and all them. And he's like, "So Ed, how was it over at the beauty salon? It was good. Miss So and So took me to the back, and that's where she took off her clothes." And then there was this other part where Winona Ryder comes home from school, from being out with Jim, and he winds up scaring her. And when he goes on ahead with his scissors and cuts the bed, and so it makes the water come out because it's a water bed. I thought that was funny. And then you also have Vincent Price, who's in this, who's actually the best thing about this movie because of the fact that you have someone that's a horror related person that's actually pretty much the king of horror movies being in this little small piece. And matter of fact, after this movie was done, Vincent Price passed away. But hands down, Edward Scissorhands is probably one of my favorite movies. So, do you
You,
have anything?
you, you can keep going on the best. I finished mine.
Well, I wasn't sure if you wanted to piggyback off of anything with Edward
I've
Scissorhands.
no, I've not seen that movie.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean a lot
it's
of the
now
stuff.
streaming on Disney Plus. Just letting
Yeah,
everybody know.
yeah, yeah, I know.
Okay,
but
so
but for the audience that's interested, it's on Disney Plus.
okay, so next one I have Ed Wood, and this is also
Tim
another Tim
Burton.
Burton movie. But don't worry, have no fear. I have some bad Tim Burton movies too on this list. But Ed Wood to me, because now this is what it's about, in case anybody is wondering, because it's an underrated film. Everybody talks about all these other Johnny Depp movies, but they don't out all the time. They don't talk about Ed Wood. Ed Wood is so underrated. It's not even funny. And it seems like James and the
Yeah,
Giant Peach gets outshined. It also outshines with Tim Burton's, even though Tim Burton never even wrote this film or anything like that. Nightmare Before Christmas, it gets outshined with that. Batman, the Batman Returns, and the regular Batman movie, but they don't talk about Ed Wood. And Ed Wood is a Hollywood outcast. Nevertheless, with the help of the formerly famous Bela Lugosi and a devoted cast and crew of show business misfits who believe in Ed's off-kilter vision, the filmmaker is able to bring his oversized dreams to cinematic life despite a lack of critical or commercial success. Ed and his friends managed to create an utterly endearing series of extremely low-budget films. And
B
I like,
movies.
what's that?
I said B movies. There's
Yeah,
really there's low budget, really so bad they're good. Like there's something the riff tracks would make fun of.
right. But you see, though, I like this movie because of the fact that it's about passion. It's about seeing somebody else's passion through somebody else's lenses of their eyes and trying to understand where they're coming from as a director. And even though the guy might make total crap films, you can't deny the fact that the person that is passionate about something believes in something so much that they don't see how bad their film actually is or anything like that either. But it's this movie delivers on all aspects. Johnny Depp is really good in this movie. And like I said, this is just an all around good movie. I just wish people would actually would give this movie a chance. And matter of fact, it has Mark Landau in this as Bella Lugosi. You also have Bill Murray in this movie as Bunny Bickeridge. You also have Sarah Jessica Parker as Dolores Fuller. It has a great cast. This film is very underrated. I would love to do a review on this someday. But yeah, Ed Wood is actually on my list.
It sounds
And
like
then
he's the he's that time period's version of Tommy Wiseau.
yeah,
That's what it sounds like. Like, well, and Tommy Wiseau only made like he didn't make as probably many movies as Ed Wood probably did, but The Room and Disaster Artist, it was just like a guy that was trying to make a movie, make his own Hollywood movie. Like this one to make one of those, like that. But I probably Ed didn't probably finance, direct, star, directed, did everything just to make a movie get Oscars. Like he knew his movies weren't going to be Oscar worthy. So it's like it sounds like he's like this like that version, like that time period's version of Tommy Wiseau.
right. But yeah, it's definitely a good movie. I definitely recommend it for anybody that wants to check out something that's underrated. Another one is Donnie Brasco with Al Pacino, hooah, and then you also have Johnny Depp, who plays. Now, this to me delivers on the gangster aspect and stuff like that. It's also based on a true story. I don't know if you saw this one.
Years ago, I watched this one. I know it's on Netflix now. I don't know if I'll get it. Maybe might get around to it. We'll see. But I don't remember much of it because I think I watched it like years and years ago.
Right. But basically, Johnny Depp plays this FBI agent investigating Lefty, who's played by Al Pacino. And he gets, at first, he's just investigating them, wearing a wiretap and stuff like that. And this is also where that word fugazi comes in. It's a fugazi. It's a fugazi. But yeah, it means fake. And then, of course, you wind up having Lefty go, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing over there? You're not supposed to be. You're not supposed to have a mustache." He goes, "You need to be clean shaven." So next thing you know, it you have Johnny Depp shaving his mustache and everything, and things like that, and he gets so involved into the mob life to the point where he's becoming somebody that he's investigating, and he gets sucked into the life to the point where it's actually hard to pull him out of the FBI's part of it. And then you also have the dealing with the wife and learning how to separate your work from your personal life. You're not sure if Johnny Depp is going to get hurt or not. You also have this other great scene in the Chinese restaurant where basically they want him to take off his boot and the wire is actually in his boot. He goes, "I'm not taking off my effing boots." And he goes, and Lefty goes, "Why not? Just take off your boots. It's not that big of a deal." So he winds up getting into a fight, an altercation inside the Japanese Chinese restaurant. And then there's also this other, you actually see the bond between Al Pacino and Johnny Depp's character. And then there's also this other scene that I thought that was hilarious where basically he gives Johnny Depp some money. He goes, "Hey, kid, come here, come here." He goes, and he goes, what left? What? He goes, "I'm going to give you some money here." Next thing you know, Johnny Depp's about to leave. He takes the 200 or $500 and gives him back 50. And he's also teaching him how to do Italian cooking and everything. This movie is fantastic and will leave you wondering what's going to happen next. So I can't go wrong with this biopic because of the fact that it relies heavily on the investigation of Lefty of this gangster world, and I really loved how his character changes and evolves. And there's also this one scene where they're cutting out the body parts, and Johnny Depp's over there almost hurling and throwing up because of how bad that gruesome that scene is. So overall, I have to go with Donnie Brasco. And then number two is Blow.
Yeah, I've seen that years ago. I'm
Blow
familiar of it, but
Blow to me is one of my favorite movies because of the fact how much Johnny Depp's character also transforms in this movie. Because he goes from selling weed on the beach to then he gets arrested for selling weed to then he meets this Colombian inside prison. And he goes, "I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about the cocaine business." And then he starts selling cocaine, and then he also gets Pee Wee Herman involved. Because the actor who plays Pee Wee Herman is in this
Paul
movie
Rubens.
too. Yep, Paul Rubin is in this movie. Um, it even goes into this is actually another one of those movies that's based on a true story, and he came from a good home and everything. It's just that he wanted more. He wanted more than what he was bargained for, and he got caught into this life of being this drug lord and everything. As a matter of fact, I remember this one part where they're about to have a big, huge party for Johnny Depp's character, and the FBI raids the whole entire party, arrests Paul Rubin, arrests everybody at that party, and Johnny Depp keeps on getting out of trouble the whole entire time to the point where you know there's some repercussions that happen later on within that movie itself. So I really have to say, Blow is one of my other favorite movies, and then you know,
Say it blew you away.
yeah, blew me away. Blow blew me away. And so I'm wrapping up with my best list, I promise.
No worries.
So my number one is an old movie with him and Leonardo DiCaprio. This movie should have won them the Academy Award that year, and it didn't. What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
An
Leonardo
Oscar.
DiCaprio. Yes. Do you want to know why though? Leonardo DiCaprio's um portray of someone that's autistic was spot on. The way he transforms his body and the way he moved, the way he talked, really did feel like he was autistic. Also, too, Johnny Depp, who is trying to take care of his brother, and everybody is not concentrating on Gilbert or anything. It's all about, oh, why didn't you keep your eye on your brother, Gilbert? Why didn't you do this, Gilbert? Or anything. It was like, oh, forget about my life and what I want to do or anything like that. My life is now geared towards only my brother, and I can't move out of this town. I can't build my own self up. I can't do any of that because I'm having to keep an eye on my brother the whole time and things like that. So, What's Eating Gilbert Grape should have won the Academy Award. I feel like basically, I think that Johnny Depp should have won Best Actor, and you also have Best Side Character, which would be, of course, Leonardo DiCaprio's character. Leonardo DiCaprio should have won, but that's just me because of the fact that the performances were so good at this, and it also pulls on your heartstrings. I forgot what movie won back
I'm
in
about to
the
find out.
back in that day. Thank you for doing the fact check for me. But also too, Gilbert's also dealing with his overweight mother and stuff like that too, to the point where some stuff winds up happening at the very end where they actually have to do something to the mother and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into spoilers, even though this movie came out in the '90s, but it was it was really a fantastic film, and the way that Johnny Depp played Gilbert was just fantastic.
Son of
Um,
a Woman is the one that won the Oscar
so an
with
Al
Al
Pacino
Pacino.
movie. Hooah! I'm played scent of a woman, and I beat
Um,
out. Yeah,
Let me see what won best. I think no, I don't think no. Best Picture was Unforgiven, I believe.
that's right. That's right. Clint Eastwood won Unforgiven that year. And to be
Uh,
honest with you,
yeah,
Unforgiven was a good movie. Cinematography was fantastic. That plot was fantastic. So it was actually a tough break for from that part. Now, I do have to say this. I think the most overrated movie that won the Academy Awards in the '90s, whenever it came down between Shawshank Redemption and Forrest Gump, Shawshank Redemption should have beat Forrest Gump's butt on that day. So that's a little rant from me
yeah, and I think the supporting actor went to Gene Hackman.
for
Unforgiven.
Unforgiven. Okay. So
Yeah.
you have, hey, you can't go wrong with Gene Hackman, and you can't go wrong with Clint Eastwood at that time. So for them to
Let
lose
me
against them,
double check real shit, like real quick, because it looks like it was this 1993. But let me see when let's eat what officially Eden Gilbert came out and went up against. Okay,
but
yeah, it
yeah,
was actually 1993, and that one came out in December, so it should be the when we find out the actual. I think the I think would have been the '94 Academy Awards. Wait, sorry.
all right. After we do this, we're gonna segue into our worst movies.
Okay.
But I think What's Eating Gilbert Grape was really good for that time. But yeah, but it's okay. I think that we can actually just
Oh
segue.
yeah, it was Schindler's List. That was what 94 was. Yeah. Yeah, Schindler's List won the best picture that year. And also and I think the best supporting actor went to Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive.
Yeah, that sounds about right because I remember The
Yeah.
Fugitive having massive award nominations at that time.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I was off a year. But yeah, it was Schindler. It was either one. It was something big, and yeah, Schindler's List was the. Yeah, that
And
was.
it was
Yeah.
deserving. So Steven Spielberg definitely did a good job at Schindler's List.
Yeah.
So it's actually hard to compete against Spielberg at that time.
Yeah.
All right, so let's segue into our worst movies now.
Okay. My number 9, Crimes of Grindelwald, that Fantastic Beasts sequel. I like the first Fantastic Beasts movie. It doesn't beat the original Harry Potter's, but I had a lot of hope going to this one. It's not like Johnny Depp was bad in this movie. It's just the movie was just bad. It was just like it was a downer. Whole movie was a downer. It was really just like depressing. It ended really. It was just an overall downer of a movie. And then it's just the last big one. Johnny Depp was supposed to be in the third movie, but then the whole Amber Heard happened, and then because he was supposed to play Grindelwald again in the third one. The third one wasn't bad. It just wasn't good. It was what it was. But the sequel though was just terrible. I felt like punching a wall after this movie. Honestly, it was just bad. It's just like I didn't care for any more Harry Potter movies after watching this one, and it's not like I said, Johnny Depp wasn't bad in this one. It's just everything else about it was just bad.
You see, I only saw the very first Fantastic Beast movie. I just felt like the magic was better in Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, it was.
And I was spoiled off of Doctor Strange to the point where I'm like, yeah, I don't really like. If this movie would have came out a year after Doctor Strange, I'd be like, yeah, this movie's good. The
It
special
did.
effects
I
was
think that Crimes of Grindelwald. I think that came out in 2018,
well. I'm
2019.
talking
I
about the
think.
first one, and then comparing the magic to
Oh yeah,
that.
oh yeah, Fantastic. The original Fantastic Beast. Yeah, that was the first one. The original Fantastic Beast was good. I think this one was the sequel, and the sequel was just bad.
Yeah, I
But
didn't
anyway,
watch the sequel. I just didn't really care enough to want to see it. But I heard
yeah,
that if you're a fan of Harry Potter and stuff like that, with the second one, is basically you went into like a Harry Potter test, basically. If you think about it, like you actually had to remember the characters' names, and you also had to remember the background of the characters because of the books and stuff like that. It felt like that you had to have a test for Harry Potter, basically, from what I heard from some of my friends. But
I don't recommend it. I really don't like. I think like again, Eddie Redmayne did what he could, or I don't know. I keep getting him and Eddie Highmore. Whatever. There's too many Eddies. There's too many Eddies.
that
It
sounds like a
just
movie.
yeah, just too many Eddies. It sounds like a movie. It's like if I'm gonna watch it, I'll watch Ed and Eddie again. Whatever. But still, like again, I don't recommend Crimes of Grindelwald. Just some of the casting choices that I mean, Jude Law was the highlight of this movie as Dumbledore. Like he was a good young Dumbledore. But the movie is just atrocious, and
Okay.
that's my number 9.
Okay, so my number 9 is Alice in Wonderland.
I worked during that
And
movie.
that movie, I had such high hopes for it in a way because of the fact that I like Tim Burton, of course. But it made me feel like I was on an LSD trip the whole entire time watching this film, even though Alice in Wonderland is basically an LSD trip, even if you watch the animated movie. But, I just was really creeped out by it, and I really didn't like it. I was like very over the top. The special effects, especially with the Queen having a small head with a big body, then you have the Tweedledee and Tweedledum twins. Nah, this movie was just not for me. And we'll get into my number 8 in a minute.
My number 8 again is the last pirate movies on Stranger Tides. This was just I don't even know what this was. Like, I was not entertained at all. Like, and again, I remember working the theater when we had this movie. I didn't watch it until years. Like, it might have been last year when I finally watched it. I'm not a huge Penelope Cruz fan. I just find her annoying. She was really annoying in this. Sure, I like Ian McShane. And then there's some scenes I liked in this. Like, I love the scene where he jumps out of an exploding building. And everybody's like, "Did everybody just see that?" Because I'm not doing it again. Like, there was funny moments, but overall, the movie's like you miss having these other characters of Elizabeth Swann or a Will Turner, like William Turner, like that. You just miss those characters. Sure, like, and Johnny Depp can do it, but Johnny Depp can't do this movie on his own. That's where you need these other really memorable characters like Will and Elizabeth and Barbosa and Davy Jones. That's why you need these characters. Like, sure, Ian McShane is like Captain Blackbeard. Sure, that's cool, but it was a filler movie. This was like the Quantum of Solace of this trilogy, and Quantum of Solace was bad. This was bad, and that's the similarity. They're both bad. Like, Johnny Depp can't do the whole movie himself. Not like that. Not in his his early years. But yeah, that's why you miss these characters. That's why I enjoyed that on The Dead Man Tell No Tale so much, because we got to see these old characters back. And and it's just like, again, this movie just felt like a filler. But no, it's like him jumping out of the exploding building. If he did that whole movie, I would have been annoyed of it. But he did it once, and he goes, "I'm not going to do it again." Well, I'm not going to watch that movie again. So that was my number 8, and we already talked about number 7. So you can go into the next 2.
Okay, so I got Alice through the pooping glass. I mean, Alice through the looking glass.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
And that movie is just as bad as the first one. I mean, I went in there with like an open mind, thinking, okay, maybe this might not be that bad, and thinking that I might actually like it, because I like giving movies the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they might not do the same stuff that they did. It's the same beat for beat and over the top use of characters and waste of Johnny Depp's talent to do characters that are like this. And I wanted him to go back to doing his stuff like Donnie Brasco, not the Run Diary, basically all the stuff that you did back in the 90s. And I want him to go back to that kind of level of acting, because that's where he shines in. Because everybody's just thinking, oh, he's just a character actor or character chore actor who plays these overact characters, when he's just so much more than that. And it just sucks that all he was doing was these kind of movies with Tim Burton, and they're very over the top. They suck. They're not that great. I just wish that he would actually done more.
Like, to go on your point, like, not many people, like, again, him to Tim Burton is like Denzel to Antoine Fuqua, or Mark Wahlberg to Peter Berg, or Leo to that. But with those, you're not getting the same movie every time. Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, you're getting the same movie every time, and it's good for a while, but it gets stale. That's why you see those. That's why the longevity for Leo and Scorsese, like, they make some great movies because it's not the same. And again, with Denzel and Antoine Fuqua, sure, it's somewhat of the same movie, like, but who doesn't want to see Denzel kill people or Denzel kick some ass? And he's about to do that next September when he returns as the Equalizer, which I'm super pumped for the Equalizer 3. I don't care if it's just Denzel and Antoine Fuqua, and they just make some great, and it's Denzel beating people up. I mean, this in an interview, Denzel's like, "I get to go beat some people up again. I'm really excited for that." When you hear Denzel, who never does sequels, doing 2 sequels to one thing, obviously Denzel's having a good time. But yeah, I think that's the problem with Johnny Depp and Tim Burton. You're getting the same movie, and I think and I agree. I think hopefully Johnny Depp gets back into Hollywood soon. We hope so. We can actually do something good, but I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, so my next one is going to be Rango.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Which is an animated film, and I remember hearing some other podcasters laughing at how he portrays his guy Gecko and stuff like that, and how funny it is. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, this movie is not that funny. He wears a little small Hawaiian shirt. He tries to be funny, but he's not funny. And the humor just is very forceful. It is not. I didn't laugh one time. I'm sitting there like, oh, like okay, do I have a dentist appointment today? Did I leave the stove on? Did I leave the door open at my house? That's how bad I was. That's how bad it is for me to sit through Rango. And I get the fact that Johnny Depp was trying to do something different. And
Kid
I give
movie.
him credit. I give him credit. I give him credit for trying something different, do an animated film, and try to do something for family. But this movie just falls apart for me.
Well, my number 6 is he tried to do a family movie, and this was just bad. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay, yep, I have that on my list too.
That I was watching it, I was just cringing the whole time. I'm like, the sequences were just bad. We're just bad. The musical numbers, like it didn't feel to have the same feel like as the old. And again, this is him and Tim Burton. Like, it's just like, dude, you guys need to have an intervention. You need to follow the dentist system. And if I'm by following the dentist system from Sunny Philadelphia, you need to do the last step of the dentist system. Separate entirely. That's really what you guys need to do. You just really need to separate entirely because yeah, it was just the visuals just look like again LSD. It looked like you were on drugs watching this movie, and and then having the whole thing that is like his whole reasoning why he can't eat candy because his dad was a dentist. Where did that even come up? Like seriously, where did that in the books or anything like that? I never read any of the books, or I might have been back in like middle school. But when did that even come up about the whole idea that his dad was a dentist? That's why his dad never let him eat candy, which is why he went to the candy store. Like seriously? Like again,
That,
this is just a travesty. This was just bad. And again, I hate musicals. So any musical numbers that don't make any sense, they were just badly like just bad, just separate entirely.
you see, I grew up on the Gene Wilder factory movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Willy Wonka movie. And I love the musical numbers. I like the Oompa Loompas in that one. In this one, they're ridiculous, over the
Yeah.
top. Wonka in this one is very creepy, very out there in left field, which is totally different than what Gene Wilder's character was. I get the fact that in the books, he's a lot darker in tone, and also too the book itself is also dark in tone, and it's more of a horror filled thing though too. But at the same time, what Gene Wilder was able to do was he was able to give Willy Wonka a charismatic kind of feel to him, to where he's trying to prove a lesson to them, to these kids that are spoiled. But this one is like, let's just kill as many kids as we can in this factory, and then let's later on force the meaning behind everything and why I chose Charlie for this job that I wanted to have. And I heard that they're going to be doing a prequel
Oh
to
yeah,
the
with
factory,
Timothy Chalamet.
and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with like a prequel as long as Tim Burton's not attached to this.
I don't think he is. I don't know if I'll watch it again. I don't do musicals, and I think I was like, musicals have been ruined for me, and I'm like, yeah, why? I don't care anymore. I don't care about musicals. I'll just avoid it. I mean, again, like that's why I don't really seem interested in Spirited. The new Ryan. I mean, I love Ryan Reynolds, but I can't, and I love Will Ferrell. I just can't do the two of them together in a musical. I just can't. I love the two of them. I mean, I'm a huge Ryan Reynolds fan, but I can't do the musical. I just can't. That's how much musicals are ruined for me.
Okay, so I'm gonna go into my next one. After that one is it's my number 6. It's Dark Shadows,
Oh, that's my number one.
which
That
is
movie.
another Tim Burton movie.
This movie gave me a nosebleed. I'm not
And
kidding. I was like, oh, go ahead. I'll get into my story after you finish like talking about how bad this one is.
I didn't go to the movie theaters to see this
I didn't pay
at all.
for it. I worked at the movie. My local. This was right before the summer, right before I went to college, and I was still working at the movie theater at the time. And I stayed after, and I watched this movie. And I think because I was making the joke, I'm like, "Well, we can charge you for it." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I have a free pass. I can just go get it." So the only thing that was wasted was my time. But and then go ahead, and then I'll get into my nosebleed story in a sec.
You see, I remember the TV series, and some TV series based, some movies based on TV series are not that great because it's hard to adapt a movie that adapt a movie that's based on a TV series and try to make it its own thing, and then try to force comedy into it, and then also too forcing your wife into your projects to where it becomes no longer, oh, look at, oh, cool, it's cool to have Tim Burton's wife in a movie. It becomes like that Sherry Moon zombie kind of thing where basically, oh, you're shoving your wife in our face all the time. We get it, you two are married, you guys do films together, but take it like you said, Charlie, whenever it comes down to Johnny Depp, separate things from each other. They needed a long break from doing films together with this film. And then the humor's forced. Then you also have this other thing where basically you have Johnny Depp's character and also too Tim Burton's wife making out on the walls, on the ceiling, doing this
Mhm.
long montage of this whole entire bit, and the bit is forced. And then there's also this other thing where it's supposed to be funny whenever he first wakes up and he goes, I see a gold emblem. And in that gold emblem, I saw an M. I'm like, okay, that's still,
McDonald's, yeah.
yeah. That was just sponsorship for McDonald's for
Yeah.
Dark Shadows. That's all it was, and it was forced. Nothing about this screamed Dark Shadows to me. It was just Johnny Depp and makeup and cosmetics and stuff like that with a green screen that just had the Dark Shadows logo on it.
I never watched the TV show. I just saw this. I'm like, yeah, let me stay after. It's not going to cost me anything. It's cost me my time. But yeah, like, and then I just credit this movie was so bad it gave me a nosebleed. Like, and I had to run out of the theater just to put tissues up my nose. And for some reason, I don't believe his Tim Burton's wife was in this. I think the love interest was Ava Green.
Okay, Ava Green was in it? Okay.
Yeah, I
I
think
couldn't
Ava.
remember that
Yeah,
far
no, no,
back
no. I
with
think
you.
Michelle Pfeiffer was though, and so that might like yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer played I think the family or whatever. And I know Chloe's Grace Moretz was in this too. Then again, this was like 2012. So then 4 years later, we got the Into the Looking Glass, the sequel. So they obviously didn't separate entirely enough. I don't know. I remember how bad this movie was, and even I didn't even have to pay for this. And I sat there and I watched the bad movie. The only thing that was my time. But yeah, this was terrible. You know, and even though this is right up there, my one and two are interchangeably because of how bad they were, but I'll get into that in a sec. Um, but yeah, did you have anything else? I didn't mean to cut you off. Is there anything else you
No,
want to say
I,
about how bad this
I
was?
made all the points that I
Okay.
needed to make with this film.
Okay. So my number five was The Tourist.
I didn't see that one because of the
Oh,
fact
it's
that,
bad. It's him and Angelina Jolie. Like this one looked like it was supposed to be some sort of action thriller, and it wasn't. It was supposed to be it was a dumb, cheesy romance movie. And the twist was just dumb. Everything about this movie, came out in 2011. I just remember the two of them were in it, and I hated it. That's all I remember of this. And some dumb twist. Yeah, it came out in 2011. It was him and Angelina Jolie. You figured this was gonna be like this was like it was gonna be cool action here. It wasn't. It was a romance with some thriller elements in it. This was a travesty. This is bad. Like you don't see this movie.
this is bad
That
marketing altogether with this film.
yeah. And then I remember I worked again. We had that movie at the theater, and I was like, oh okay. No, it was terrible. I don't remember I don't remember it. I just know it was bad.
Okay, so we did Black Mass, we did all that. So I got the Lone Ranger on my list. It is my number 5.
That was my number two.
And I'm just gonna go into Derpy's comment real quick, and then we'll go into what our thoughts are. Because I feel so bad. For the Lone Ranger film could have been cool, but the actor who played him wasn't good. Wasn't good. The story sucked too. Johnny Depp was was the sum that was part of the entire film such a waste?
I think he's referring to Army Hammer. He's the guy that played the Lone Ranger in Army Hammer. It's just a bad actor.
Get this, I remember sitting over at my ex-fiance's house watching this film, and this is like after I watched this after years ago, and basically it's me rewatching this film, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm suffering through this movie, wanting this movie to be over, and they're laughing and having a good time, and I'm over there just being miserable the whole entire time. I'm like, and they're like, that was funny. I was like, did we just watch the same movie? Because I don't think we just watched the same movie. I just I just wanted to contemplate why I'm here. Um
I mean,
and
yeah.
and then having him as Tonto. I was fine with the casting choice. I thought Johnny Depp was going to be the good thing about the Lone Ranger. I was defending him because he's not Indian. Remember all that, Charlie, in the news and stuff like that? Oh, he's not Indian, so he cannot be Tonto. But he does have some Indian blood in him, though. But all I cared was about a good performance out of Johnny Depp. I did not know it was going to be Captain Jack Sparrow with a crow on his head with makeup on. Now, I remember when the set designs came out for that makeup. Do you remember that?
No, I don't. I don't know if I forgot when I joined the page.
No, no, no. Like I'm just talking about like not on the page, but I'm talking about the news stories.
Oh, no, I didn't follow the news stories for this. I didn't even know this movie was existing. Like, and I know the
I
movie.
remembered everything.
Yeah,
The lead up, I remember people saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna watch that because he's not Indian. He doesn't have," and I don't like the look of it and with him. But if you think about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie, but doesn't it look like Captain Jack Sparrow with
yeah,
just
pretty much.
over the
Except,
top,
yeah, over top. Yeah,
same character, and it's like, okay, we're gonna put Johnny Depp in it, but Johnny, look, you're not allowed to be serious in this movie. Whatever you did in Pirates of the Caribbean, we want you to do that, and that's exactly what they did. And instead of letting him become Tonto, become his own character, he became like a character a chore, basically, of what's not the right thing to do with Tonto and the Lone Ranger. Like I said, doing a movie that's based on a TV series, especially in the 1930s, I believe the Lone Ranger was. I'm not 100% sure on that, but doing something like in a black and white era and trying to do it into a modern day thing is a hard thing to do. And this movie just sucked the life out of me. But, anyways, go on
no.
ahead. Tell me what you think.
But yeah, I hated this movie. I saw this in the theaters. Again, my dad was a huge fan of this TV show. He grew up watching the TV show. He liked it. Like he enjoyed it. I didn't. And I didn't this one didn't cost me money at all as well. I stayed after work and watched it with my dad and my sister. I was bored out of my mind watching this. And I was like, thank God this movie was a $200 million bomb. Let me emphasize this. This movie was one of the Disney's streak of $200 million bombs. This movie flopped so hard. We don't have Disney doesn't have come up with many original ideas anymore. This movie was just so bad. It was boring. It was annoying. Like I even thought Johnny Depp was annoying in this movie. Army Hammer is just a piece of crap. He can't act. Like I can act better than he can, and like, and I didn't even want, and I can make better choices. Obviously, Army Hammer did not make better choices because of what happened now. But that's not for today to talk about. But he's just a crappy actor. You want to watch some crappy acting? Go watch Death on the Nile because Army Hammer was crap in that movie. But still, he was crap in this movie. He's crap in anything that he does. Like it's just this movie did not work. This movie should not have been made. And unlike this movie compared to the Pirates movie, the Pirates movies are actually likable and they make money. This one did not make money. The Pirates do because the Pirates movies are actually entertaining. You actually have characters you like. Nobody was likable in this movie. It was bad. It's just simple. It was just a crap movie. This one should actually. You know what? I'm moving this up. This Lone Ranger's my number one. Like I forgot how bad this one. Yeah, Lone Ranger's my number one. Dark Shadows is two. Both are just garbage.
Damn, I made you move move that into like the
Well,
number
it was
one
fun.
spot.
It was a tie. It was like it was they're neck and neck. Both of them were crappy movies, and they both came out almost maybe a year or two apart from each other. Dark Shadows came out first in 2012. I'm pretty sure The Lone Ranger came out in 2013. So both of those were crap movies, so it's fine. It was taut. It was even. It's even. Even Stevens like a square. So yeah, Lone Ranger's number one. Yeah, that movie. This movie was just garbage.
Okay, so I think what's your next one? Because that
I
was
think I had
mine.
this movie called Transcendence. It's my number
Yeah.
4. Um, I watched this years ago, and I was really excited because this was one of the cinematographers that always worked with Christopher Nolan, and like while like I can't pronounce his last name, but I was like, oh cool, I love Christopher Nolan. This one had a really interesting premise, and then it went all full Lucy on us. And if you go full Lucy, that means like it starts out great, and then the rest of the movie happens, and then it ends, and like, what the hell did I just watch? That's what this one seems like. Like, it had a really interesting idea, interesting premise, decent cast, and I think Nolan was a producer of this. I think. Then the movie happened again. I don't really fully remember it because again, it's on HBO Max. I might watch it at some point down the line, but I watched it and I was really disappointed out of it somehow. And I was like, I think I was bummed because it had the build up for it was pretty good. And then the rest of the movie just happened, I guess.
You see, I didn't see this movie at all, but I remember one of my friends said that he fell asleep in the theater watching this movie because of how boring it was.
Maybe that
And
was it. I don't remember. I fell asleep.
you fell asleep too?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Uh,
It's so long since I've seen this movie. I don't remember.
you see,
I,
so okay, so I can't say if this movie's good or not or anything like that. I don't have anything to go with this one. All I can say is I can trust one of my friends whenever he says this movie's not that good. I was hoping a lot more for Johnny Depp and stuff like that, but it didn't deliver for him. Therefore, I didn't go check out that movie. And I can also agree Lucy's not a good movie, especially whenever the whole entire movie's just basically she turns into a flash drive.
yeah,
But
pretty much. The opening though, the first part of it good was and then she started gaining more memory, and I was like, okay. The first part of the movie was great. It started out great. I saw that in theaters. Then the rest of the movie happened.
okay, so I'm gonna go with my number two, which is the Rum Diary in
No, okay.
2011. And in case anybody doesn't know, and you guys want to check out this, and this movie's boring and stupid, but as the Ellen Weiser era draws to a close, journalist Paul Kemp, who's played by Johnny Depp, decides he's had enough of New York and takes a job in Puerto Rico. There he becomes the obsessed with Chenault, Amber Heard, the, the fiance of a shady businessman named Sanderson by Aaron Eckhart, who wants to turn the pristine island into a capitalist paradise, recruited by Sanderson to write an article that praises an unsavory deal. Paul must decide if he will use his talents to help Sanderson or bring him down. And this movie is boring. There's even a part where Johnny Depp's character does drugs and he sees this long tongue that turns into a snake. And it's like a CGI of a tongue that turns into a snake. This movie, I had high hopes for it because I was liking the whole journalist thing and try and maybe not turn this guy in, or if he's gonna wind up being friends with him. It just falls flat for me. I just didn't care about this movie. I only saw this one time, and that was it for me. And I can't even tell you too much about it. All I can remember was the CGI tongue that turned into a snake. I remember the how dry it was of a movie to the point where it was boring for me. Do you have anything to add for that or no?
No, I've never seen it. I've seen trailers for it so many often, and I know Amber Heard was in it.
Amber Heard, yeah,
That was about it.
yeah. So do you have anything else or
Yeah, my number 3, I have City of Lies. City of Lies. I know we did the trailer reaction to this like back in 2020. This was the Tupac, them trying to find the murderer of Biggie and Tupac. Johnny Depp in it. This was crap. What was the point of this movie? What was the point? I knew that's why this movie kept getting delayed and was directed DVD for a reason. This movie kept and I was like, huh, no wonder why. This was garbage. And what was the whole point? Oh, we couldn't find anything. Then what the whole point was the investigation for? We couldn't find anything. Why was the movie made? I don't know. We were bored. Like, I don't know. I don't know why this movie got made. There's no point. There's really no point to this. There's no resolution, nothing. Like, I'll spoil for everybody. Johnny Depp's character has a heart attack and dies after he was giving up evidence. They said, "Oh yeah, the investigation's over. We're not covering it anymore." He has a heart attack in the police station and he dies. Spoiler alert. There, I saved you 2 hours. There, you're welcome.
I'm actually surprised that you watched that movie because after I watched the trailer reaction, after we did our trailer reaction, and then I started analyzing it in my head, I'm like, yeah, this is a B-rated movie. They haven't caught Tupac's murder. They haven't done anything to lead up to the investigation of Tupac or anything like that recently to have any kind of accountability of who shot Tupac. So therefore, how can you make a movie that is just a dead end case? And lo and behold, they made a dead end case out of a movie that actually ends on a dead end case.
Pretty
So
much.
therefore, it's a 2.5 hour movie that's wasted. So I'm glad that you watched it for me. So
No.
thank you.
Well, I only watched it because it was part of my quest for 365.
Well,
I
thank
was
you for
I was
doing
trying
that.
to find something I was trying to find 365 movies to watch, and luckily I did. And I'm almost on that goal for this year as well. I'm almost close. I'm like I think 30-ish movies behind. And yeah, I've seen some repeats. And sometimes I didn't realize I saw the same movie twice in 1 year. I'm like, I don't care. It gets me close to that 365. So I'm like, I've seen almost 700 movies in 2 years. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm
Yeah.
wrapping
So,
up with my number one now.
and I think I know what it is.
What do you think it is first?
Fear and Loathing in Los Angeles or
Las
whatever.
Vegas? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so before I rant on this movie, before I give this movie crap or anything like that, I can understand that it has a big, huge cult following. I get that. I get the whole entire concept. Even Avenged Sevenfold did a whole entire music video called Backcountry that was dedicated to this movie, which the Backcountry movie music video is a whole lot better than this movie. This movie, I get the fact that you're trying to go for some dark humor and you're trying to get in for the laughs and things like that. I did not laugh at one time. I did not care about anything that was going on in this movie. I was using this movie basically at the time for background noise and then also too, I did not care about any of the characters. I didn't care about what Johnny Depp was doing, and it felt long. It felt drawn out. It felt disconnected. It felt like I was just wasting my time, like Charlie did with that Tupac movie that he watched. So that's how I feel about that movie. I get the fact there's a huge fan base. I'm glad that you guys like it. But for me personally, I did not like that movie. I think it's overrated. I think that there's a lot of better quality films with Johnny Depp in it that I just mentioned in my top 10 that you guys are more than welcome to check that out. But this movie does not deliver for me.
Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't really credit on there. But I thought of another one that might be pretty decent for people to check. I watched this in my film class, and you know, it was a western called Dead Man. It's a black and white movie starring Johnny Depp. It was a very young one, but I watched it like again. I was in college, so I was like, I couldn't get out of watching this because, well, if I want to pass the class, I have to watch this stuff. So, but it's a movie called Dead Man. I don't know where you can find it, but if you want a Johnny Depp black and white western, that had like an interesting like tone to it, it's worth checking out. But it didn't fit the quality of my list.
Okay. So I think that's everything that we wanted to cover as far as our worst, right? Or do
I
you?
think so. Yeah, I think that was all of them. I only had 9 worst movies on there. So yeah, it's just talking about. I haven't seen many Johnny Depp movies where I didn't even have even numbers for each side.
So my question is this: so with the ones that I chose, would you be interested in any of the ones that I have as my good ones?
Maybe Ed Wood, maybe, but other than that, I don't know. I probably doubt it.
Okay.
And I'm not a big Tim Burton fan, so a lot of those ones on the stuff from Tim Burton, I don't think I'll watch, or I might have watched years ago. I just don't feel like getting back to them.
Okay.
Um, but I think the one when I said, I think, well, you're like, well, like, well, we had to text him. I said he didn't in it, but he was hilarious, and it was a cameo in 21 Jump Street. I thought that was worthy of my number 5 list.
Well, like I said, for me personally, whenever I decide to do a list, it has to be him starring in it and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But his cameo appearance is actually funny. I do
I
have
mean,
to give him
and
credit
then
on
he's
that.
in it for most of the movie. Anytime you see the biker gang, he's in it. You just didn't know until
The very end.
the big reveal. So technically, he was in it for a good chunk of it. Is just he wasn't acting; he was just acting as part of that. But that when I saw that, like when I watched this movie again, it was if you have not seen 21 Jump Street, not the TV show, the actual movie, Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, watch it. This movie is like some of the best stuff, like the funniest movies you'll see in a long time. And this was in 2012. This is back on it was I think it was 2012. His reveal, everybody was like, "Oh my god!" Like he's in this movie. Holy crap! But yeah, it was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, his reveal in it was absolutely hysterical. I'm like, "Holy crap! I didn't know Johnny Depp was in this." So it was nice to look at that. But I included on there because he was in it long enough that I actually enjoyed it, and I enjoyed him in it. So even though it
Okay.
wasn't it, that was just my criteria, I guess.
Okay, so going through my list for best is From Hell. Secret Window is number 9. Number 8 is Sweeney Todd. Number 7 is Sleepy Hollow. Number six is Nick of Time. Number 5 is Edward Scissorhands. Number 4 is Ed Wood. Number 3 is Donnie Brasco. Number 2 is Blow. And finishing it off with a Leonardo DiCaprio movie and a very young Johnny Depp, it's What's Eating Gilbert Grape as my number 1 for my best.
All right, my
Going ahead.
number 8. Oh yeah, sorry. My number I had 8 favorites. 8 was Dead Man Tell No Tales, Pirates. 7 Pirates at World's End. 6 was Public Enemies. 5 21 Jump Street. 4 Once Upon a Time in Mexico. 3 Curse of the Black Pearl. 2 Dead Man's Chest, and 1 Black Mass.
Okay. So, worst movies. I know there was one that I had on there that was actually part of your best that I said that I didn't like, which was Public Enemies. So that's number
Mm-hmm.
10. Number 9 would be Alice in Wonderland. And then number 8 would be Alice through the through the looking glass. Then Rango. Then Dark Shadows is my number 6. Number 5 is The Lone Ranger. Number 4 would be Black Mass. Number 3, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Number 2, The Rum Diary. And number 1, Fear and Loathing Las Vegas.
My worst or least favorite: 9 Crimes of Grindelwald, 8 Stranger Tides, 7 Nick of Time, 6 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, 5 The Tourist, 4 Transcendence, 3 City of Lies, 2 Dark Shadows, and 1 The Lone Ranger.
Okay. And with that being said, guys, that's going to be it as far as our favorite Johnny Depp movies. Tell us in the comments below on what your favorite Johnny Depp movies are, or your worst Johnny Depp movies are, or do you agree with our list, or do you find them a little bit indifferent than what we have? But
Also,
also,
let us know in the let us know in the comment section which one you want us to cover next for favorite actor, director, whoever. I'm really excited to do Nicolas Cage because I think that one's gonna be an absolutely hilarious thing because Nicolas Cage has got so many movies out there. He's doubled what Johnny Depp's done.
well,
But
another thing I want to mention is this too. If you want us to rewatch any of these movies that we mentioned, please feel to do so in the comments as well. Don't forget, on the 22nd of November, we actually have a big guest coming on. He's an actor who happens to play in the Fear the Walking Dead TV series. He's also been in the new Candyman reboot. And as a matter of fact, Alex and I had the honor of reviewing his short film called New Moon. And that's Mr. Coleman Domingo is going to be on our show coming up 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and 6 o'clock Pacific Time to talk about his new short film, New Moon. And that's going to be on our YouTube channel and then later on the audio only podcast as well. So that's everything that you guys need to know that we have right now coming up. I do have another horror movie review that I'm going to be doing with my friend Gus. It's going to be called Funhouse. And that's actually streaming on Amazon Prime right now. So that's everything that you guys need to know about us on what we're doing here at Movie Lovers Unite. Also, too, don't forget Wednesday nights, Rossie will be reviewing Let the Right Ones In, and then I'm gonna have on Friday night my interview with the Vampire After Show with Brad from Canada, who's also part of the Scene Invaders podcast. And always until next time, guys, have a great and safe night.